While I may not necessarily agree with all the words that the president used in Helsinki, his policies on Russia, if we want to be fair, have been stronger than the previous administration and, frankly, any administration since the end of the Cold War in dealing with Putin's hostilities.
All right, so Marco Rubio saying that he's satisfied with the president's actions regarding Vladimir Putin, probably not necessarily his words when he was in Finland last week. That's kind of the view of South Dakota Republican Senator Mike Rounds, who, calls him as he sees him when it comes to this president, including that overture to Vladimir Putin and on issues of trade. I'm happy to have him with us right now. Senator, thank you very much for coming.
Good afternoon. Glad to be with you.
So first, Senator, on this ongoing story that, Marco Rubio is saying that, look, much ado, not about nothing, but read the president's actions, don't read his lips. And on his actions, he's been tough with Russia. Do you agree with that, or did his performance in Helsinki send mixed signals?
I think the administration has been good in terms of their response to the Russian activity. I think the fact that they've been supportive with the NDAA and what we're trying to do to send a strong message. I think the additional restrictions that we've placed on Russia since the president's been elected have been good in terms of sending a message. I do agree that some of his messaging could be different than what it is, but the actions themselves have been very good with in terms of responding to this aggression that Russia has been showing in Eastern Europe.
If you don't mind my switching to trade, sir, I know you have been concerned that there's a risk here this could, go out of whack. Have you talked to the president about that? He's talking about making a deal as the European Union folks are visiting at the White House, this idea that maybe they cobble together a no-tariff agreement, send a message to China. They're kicking around a number of ideas. What do you think of all this?
Well, I like the idea of actually getting something done. Right now in the marketplace, we have chaos. We don't have an agreement with Canada or with Mexico. We did not do the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was 500 million people that really wanted to trade with us and do that instead of trading with China. We also, right now, are having words with our European counterparts as well. So if we could get a win someplace where we could actually start solidifying and starting to take some of the markets and providing some positive outcomes for our producers, that would be very welcome. And I think, the president's got a lot of supporters in my part of the country. They want to see him succeed. They're just worried that with regard to commodities and the prices of our farm commodities, soybeans, corn, wheat, cattle, hogs, right now that market is not good for them. And after 5 years of declining ag income in South Dakota, they can't take another year without some assistance. And I think the fact that the president offered an aid package of basically about $12 billion, I think that sends a good message that, number one, he understands that we've got real concerns. But I think what most of our producers want to see is a chance to actually trade fairly with other countries. And so they got the same goal as the president. They're just really concerned about what his end game is and whether or not the tactics that are being employed right now will be successful.
Your Republican counterpart, Rand Paul, was very concerned about that $12 billion pay for farmers because that it mitigates the notion that we're putting tariff relief on top of tariffs that we're imposing, and it's just not a good idea. What do you think of that?
Well, first of all, we'd much rather just have the trade deals completed. The administration's been here for 18 months now. We don't have a single trade deal done. And so we'd much rather have that. Our producers would much rather have that. But here's the bottom line for them. The commodities that we produce are perishable. Corn, soybean, just as an example. Soybeans in my state, down about $2.18 a bushel. That's about a $600 million impact to the balance sheets for producers in my state. They can't take that kind of a hit. And so with the president offering this aid package, it's kind of like these guys are at the tip of the spear. He's offering them some protection. It may not be necessarily what they want, but just the fact that he's beginning to listen to them and that he's recognizing that they're in some pretty precarious positions, that's going to make them, I think, at least feel that he's beginning to come around to understanding how critical time is in this particular issue.
You think he's getting nervous?
Well, I'm not so sure that it's getting nervous as much as I hope the preponderance of the messages that we're sending and that our constituents, that his supporters are sending, is starting to get through that, yeah, look, we get it. We all want the same thing, which is fair trade deals. And we know that we don't have the greatest trade deals in the world. But right now, the retaliation is actually impacting us today.
All right.
The markets are down today. And I think that's the part of the message that a lot of his constituents, my constituents, are trying to send is we want you to be successful, but please, this is impacting us right now.
Senator Rounds, thank you very much. Good seeing you again.
You bet.